He slept on the streets like a beggar, ate scraps like a fool. But the woman who fed him had no idea the homeless man hiding in the shadows was worth billions, and that her one act of kindness would pull her into a deadly game she never asked to play. Adrian Cole sat on a worn carton beneath a flickering streetlight outside New Benin Market, his back pressed against the peeling wall of an abandoned shop. His clothes were stained, his beard overgrown, and his eyes carried the kind of exhaustion that comes from running, not from poverty, but from something far heavier. No one looked at him twice. In a city like Benin, homeless men were invisible, part of the landscape like potholes and street vendors. And that was exactly what Adrian wanted. 3 months ago, he'd been standing in a boardroom in Victoria Island, Lagos, closing a deal worth 200 million naira. Now he was eating scraps from roadside canteens and sleeping on concrete. But Adrian Cole hadn't lost his mind. He'd lost his trust. Every woman who'd ever claimed to love him had loved his money first. Every friend had an agenda. Every smile hit a price tag. So he'd walked away from it all. The penthouse, the fleet of cars, the empire he'd built from nothing, and disappeared into the crowd. He wanted to find one thing, genuine humanity. The evening air smelled like fried plantain and exhaust fumes. Adrian watched people hurry past, clutching bags, shouting into phones, chasing survival. No one stopped. No one cared. Until she did. Tarela Idobi locked the door of her tiny tailor shop and turned to leave when she noticed him. She paused, her eyes catching the way he sat. Too still. Too defeated. Most people would have kept walking. Tarela didn't. She walked over slowly, crouching down so she was at his level. "Uncle, have you eaten?" Adrian looked up, startled. Her voice was soft, cautious, but sincere. He shook his head. Tarela reached into her bag and pulled out a small nylon. Jollof rice and 2 pieces of chicken she'd packed for dinner. She handed it to him without hesitation. "Eat, please." Adrian stared at the food, then at her. She wasn't doing this for attention. There were no cameras, no audience, no one to impress. She was simply kind. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice rough from disuse. Tarela smiled gently. "God bless you, Uncle. If you need water, there's a tap behind my shop. You can rest there tonight if you want." She walked away before he could respond, disappearing into the evening crowd. Adrian sat there holding the warm nylon, something tight and unfamiliar stirring in his chest. For the first time in years, someone had seen him. Not his wealth, not his status, just him. And she cared anyway. Over the following weeks, Adrian stayed near Tarela's shop. He helped her carry fabrics, swept the front of her store, and listened quietly as she hummed old gospel songs while sewing. Tarela never asked him intrusive questions. She simply treated him with dignity. She brought him food when she could, offered him conversation when he seemed lonely, and never made him feel like a burden. Her friends Ivy and Osasu thought she was crazy. "Tarela, why are you wasting food on that man?" Ivy had said one afternoon, her voice dripping with judgment. "He's probably a ritualist or a thief." "You don't know him." Tarela had smiled softly. "I don't have to know someone's story to show them kindness." Osasu had rolled her eyes. "You're too soft. That's why you're still struggling." But Tarela didn't change. And Adrian watched her closely, studying the way she lived, working long hours for little pay, giving what she barely had, never complaining. She was everything the people in his former life weren't. Real, grounded, genuine. One evening, as Tarela was closing her shop, Adrian finally spoke more than a few words. "You remind me of someone I used to know." Tarela looked at him, surprised. His voice had changed, clearer, more refined. She tilted her head curiously. "Who?" "My mother." Adrian's gaze grew distant. She was a trader in Wari, sold fish in the market. "She used to say that wealth without compassion turns you into a monster." He paused. "I didn't believe her, until I became one." Tarela frowned, confused. "Uncle, I'm not homeless, Tarela." The words hung in the air like smoke. Tarela blinked, uncertain she'd heard correctly. Adrian looked at her directly, his eyes sharp and intelligent. Nothing like the broken man she thought she knew. "My name is Adrian Cole. I own Cole Tech Systems. I came here because I needed to escape." Tarela's hands trembled. Cole Tech Systems. She'd seen the name on billboards, heard it on the news. It was one of the biggest fintech companies in Nigeria. You're joking. I wish I was. Tarela stepped back, her mind spinning. The man she'd been feeding, the man she'd let sleep behind her shop, he was a billionaire? Adrian stood slowly, his posture straightening. Without the hunched shoulders and defeated expression, he looked different, stronger, commanding. I left Lagos 3 months ago, Adrian continued, his voice low. Someone I trusted betrayed me, leaked my company's prototypes to competitors, nearly destroyed everything I built. I needed to disappear while my team handled the fallout. He met her eyes. I needed to find someone who could see past the money, and I found you. Tarela's breath caught. She didn't know whether to feel honored or deceived. Why didn't you tell me? Because if I had, you would have treated me differently. Everyone does. Tarela wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. If she'd known who he was from the start, she would have been nervous, careful, performative. She wouldn't have been herself. Adrian took a step closer. You gave me something no amount of money could buy. You gave me kindness without conditions. Tears welled in Tarela's eyes. She didn't know what to say. Before she could respond, headlights swept across the street. A sleek black SUV pulled up near the shop. Adrian's expression hardened. That's my security team. I called them earlier. He looked at Tarela, his voice urgent. Things are about to get complicated, and I need you to trust me. Tarela's heart pounded. What do you mean? Adrian glanced at the SUV, then back at her. The people who betrayed me, they know I'm here, and they're coming. Tarela thought knowing his secret would be the hardest part, but discovering why powerful men were hunting him changed everything she believed about safety, trust, and the price of loving someone the world wants destroyed. The security team moved fast. 2 men in dark suits stepped out of the SUV, scanning the street with trained eyes. Adrian's entire demeanor shifted. No longer the quiet, humble man Tarela had fed for weeks. He was sharp, alert, commanding. One of the men approached and spoke in low tones Adrian couldn't fully hear, but she saw the tension tighten across his shoulders. We need to move you, sir, now. Adrian shook his head. Not yet. Give me 5 minutes. The man hesitated, then nodded and returned to the vehicle. Adrian turned back to Tarela, whose face was pale with confusion and rising fear. I know this is overwhelming, Adrian said quietly, but I need you to listen carefully. The people who sabotage my company aren't just competitors, they're dangerous. And they've been tracking me. Tarela's voice trembled. Why would they come here? Why would they care about me? Because you matter to me now. Adrian's eyes darkened. And they know it. Tarela stepped back, her mind racing. She'd only shown kindness to a stranger. How had that turned into this? I didn't ask for this, she whispered. I know, and I'm sorry. Adrian's voice cracked slightly. If I could take it back, if I could protect you from this, I would. But it's too late. They've already seen us together. Before Tarela could respond, her phone buzzed. It was Ivy, her voice frantic on the other end. Tarela, where are you? Some men were just here asking about you. Strange men. They had your picture. Tarela's blood ran cold. What? When? 10 minutes ago. They went to Osasu's shop too. Tarela. What's going on? Tarela's hands shook as she ended the call. She looked at Adrian, terror flooding her chest. They're looking for me. My friends. I know. Adrian's jaw tightened. That's why we need to leave. Tonight. Leave? Leave where? Lagos. My team has a safe location. You'll be protected. Tarela shook her head violently. No. This is my home, my shop, my life. I can't just... Tarela? Adrian gripped her shoulders gently but firmly. If you stay here, they will find you, and I won't be able to stop what happens next. Tears spilled down her face. Everything was moving too fast. Just hours ago, her biggest worry was finishing a customer's dress on time. Now she was being told her life was in danger because she'd fed a homeless man who turned out to be a billionaire with enemies. But she didn't know the worst part yet. Adrian pulled out his phone and showed her a series of photographs, grainy surveillance images taken over the past week. They showed Tarela leaving her shop, walking to the market, standing outside her small apartment. And in every photo, in the background, was the same silver sedan with tinted windows. "They've been watching you for days," Adrian said quietly. "I only realized it this morning when my security team flagged the pattern." Tarela felt her knees weaken. She'd been followed, watched, studied, and she hadn't noticed. "Who are they?" she whispered. Adrian hesitated, then spoke. "The man who betrayed me was my chief operating officer. His name is Emeka Okonkwo. I trusted him with everything: access to prototypes, financial records, strategic plans. He sold it all to a rival firm for 30 million naira. Adrian's voice hardened. "But it wasn't just about money. Emeka wanted to destroy me. Personal vendetta. I'd promoted someone else over him 2 years ago, and he never forgave me." Tarela listened, her heart pounding. "When I discovered the breach, I confronted him privately, gave him a chance to confess. Instead, he disappeared and took 5 other employees with him, people loyal to him, not the company." Adrian's fist clenched. "They didn't just steal data. They planted false accusations, spread rumors, tried to turn investors against me. I had to go underground while my legal team dismantled their lies piece by piece." "And now?" Tarela asked, her voice barely audible. "Now they're desperate. My company survived. Their plan failed. And desperate men do dangerous things." Adrian met her eyes. "Especially when they realize the person they're hunting has found something, or someone, worth staying alive for." Tarela's breath hitched. The weight of his words settled over her like a heavy blanket. "You barely know me," she said. "I know enough." The moment stretched between them, fragile and electric. But it shattered when Adrian's phone buzzed. A message from his security team. "Movement detected. 2 vehicles approaching from Airport Road. ETA 4 minutes." Adrian's expression turned ice cold. He grabbed Tarela's hand. "We're leaving, now." They moved quickly. Adrian's security team flanked them as they climbed into the SUV. Tarela glanced back at her shop, the tiny space she'd poured her heart into, the place where she'd built her small dreams. She didn't know when she'd see it again. As they sped through Benin City streets, Tarela noticed the way Adrian's jaw stayed clenched, the way his eyes scanned every corner, every shadow. This wasn't a man running from fear. This was a man preparing for war. Ivy called again, panicked. "Tarela, those men came back. They broke into your apartment. The neighbors are calling police." Tarela's stomach dropped. "Is anyone hurt?" "No, but they're tearing the place apart." "What do they want?" "I don't know," Tarela lied, her voice shaking. "Just stay away from there, please." She ended the call, tears streaming silently. Adrian reached over and squeezed her hand. "I'll replace everything, I promise." But Tarela wasn't crying about her apartment. She was crying because her simple, quiet life had exploded in a single evening, and the man beside her, the man she'd fed out of compassion, had become both her protector and the source of her greatest danger. The SUV pulled into a private compound on the outskirts of Benin. Inside, Adrian's security chief briefed them. The threat level was escalating. Emeka's men weren't just looking, they were hunting, and they had resources. "We've arranged a private flight to Lagos tomorrow morning," the chief said. "From there, we'll relocate you both to a secure facility until this is resolved." Tarela sat in stunned silence. Tomorrow morning, private flight, secure facility. None of this felt real. That night, unable to sleep, Tarela found Adrian standing on the balcony, staring into the darkness. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. "Coming here, meeting me." Adrian turned, his expression unreadable. "No, I regret putting you in danger. But I don't regret meeting you." Tarela stepped closer. "Why me? Out of everyone in this city, why did I matter?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice raw. "Because you saw me when I was nothing, and you cared anyway. That's rarer than you think." Tarela felt something shift in her chest, something she couldn't name, something that felt like falling and flying at the same time. But neither of them noticed the small red light blinking from the tree line beyond the compound, a camera lens capturing every word, every movement. And somewhere in Lagos, Emeka Okonkwo watched the live feed with a cold smile. "Found you," he whispered. We're Section 3. The escape that changed everything. Tarela thought the plane would take them to safety. But sometimes the greatest danger isn't the enemy chasing you. It's the truth hiding in the shadows of the man you've chosen to trust. The morning came too quickly. Tarela barely slept, her mind racing with images of broken doors, surveillance photos, and Adrian's face in the moonlight. By dawn, the security team had them moving again. They drove in silence through empty streets, the city still asleep, unaware that 2 lives were being uprooted in the pre-dawn darkness. The Benin airport's private terminal was quiet, almost ghostly. Adrian's jet sat on the tarmac, sleek and white, its engines already humming. Tarela had never seen a private plane up close. Under different circumstances, she might have been amazed. Now she just felt numb. As they approached the aircraft, Adrian's phone rang. He answered quickly, his expression darkening with each passing second. When he hung up, his jaw was tight. "What is it?" Tarela asked. "Emeka's men tried to breach my Lagos office 2 hours ago. My head of security stopped them, but it confirms what we suspected. This isn't just about corporate espionage anymore. It's personal." Tarela's stomach twisted. She wanted to ask more, but Adrian's security chief interrupted, urgency in his voice. "Sir, we need to board now. We've detected 2 vehicles approaching the airport perimeter." They moved quickly up the stairs into the jet. The interior was luxury Tarela couldn't process. Leather seats, polished wood, soft lighting. It felt surreal, like stepping into someone else's dream or nightmare. As the doors sealed shut and the engines roared to life, Tarela looked out the window at Benin City below, the place she'd called home for 26 years, now shrinking beneath her. Adrian sat across from her, his phone pressed to his ear, speaking in low, clipped tones to his legal team. Tarela studied him in the morning light. Without the disguise, without the pretense, he looked younger than she'd imagined, maybe 35. But his eyes carried decades of exhaustion. When he finally ended the call, he leaned back and closed his eyes briefly. "Are you okay?" Tarela asked softly. Adrian opened his eyes and looked at her, really looked at her. "I should be asking you that. I don't know what I am right now. That makes 2 of us." The plane climbed higher, breaking through clouds. For a moment, there was only silence and the steady hum of engines. Then Tarela spoke, her voice quiet but firm. "Tell me everything, no more secrets. If my life is in danger because of you, I deserve to know why." Adrian nodded slowly. He owed her that much. 5 years ago, I built Cole Tech from nothing. Just me, a laptop, and an idea. Within 3 years, we were processing transactions for half the banks in Nigeria. I hired Emeka when we were still small. He was brilliant, ambitious, hungry. I thought we wanted the same things. Adrian's voice hardened. I was wrong. Emeka didn't want to build. He wanted to own. When I promoted my chief technology officer over him, something broke. He smiled, congratulated me, and then spent 2 years planning my destruction. Tarela listened, her heart aching. He didn't just steal prototypes. He embedded malware in our systems that would have collapsed everything if we hadn't caught it. He forged documents making it look like I'd been embezzling funds. He contacted every investor, every partner, planting doubt. Adrian's fist clenched. And when that wasn't enough, he threatened my family. My younger sister, my mother. Tarela's breath caught. Where are they now? Safe, in London. I sent them away 3 months ago, before I disappeared. And you came to Benin because I needed to vanish completely while my team dismantled his network. And because I was tired, Tarela. Tired of not knowing who to trust. Tired of people who only saw my bank account. He met her eyes. Until you. The plane leveled out. The seatbelt sign flickered off. But neither of them moved. What happens now? Tarela asked. We land in Lagos. You stay in a secure location while my lawyers finish pressing charges. Emeka and his associates will be arrested. And then? Adrian paused. Then you can go back to your life. Something cold settled in Tarela's chest. Just like that? I won't trap you in my world, Tarela. You didn't choose this. I chose to help you. You helped a homeless man, not a billionaire with enemies. Tarela's eyes flashed. Don't do that. Don't diminish what happened between us. Adrian's expression shifted. Surprise, then something deeper. What do you think happened between us? Before Tarela could answer, the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Mr. Cole, we have a situation. There's an unauthorized aircraft following us. Lagos Air Traffic Control is investigating. Adrian's face went pale. He unbuckled immediately, moving toward the cockpit. Tarela followed, her heart hammering. Through the cockpit window, she could see it, a smaller plane, keeping pace with them, close enough to be deliberate. Can we outrun it? Adrian asked the pilot. Not without risking fuel, and they're not responding to radio contact. Adrian pulled out his phone, dialing frantically. This is Cole. We have a tail. I need military escort now. The line went dead. No signal. The pilot's voice was tight. Sir, they're jamming our communications. Tarela's hands shook. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not 30,000 feet in the air with nowhere to run. But then, something unexpected. The pursuing plane suddenly veered off, banking hard to the east. Within seconds, it disappeared into cloud cover. What just happened? Tarela whispered. Adrian's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This was a warning. Land quietly. No police. Or next time, we won't miss. Adrian's jaw clenched so hard, Tarela thought it might crack. The pilot looked at him, waiting for orders. Continue to Lagos, Adrian said quietly. But land at the private strip in Lekki, not Murtala Muhammad. The rest of the flight was suffocating silence. When they finally landed, Adrian's full security detail was waiting. 12 men in tactical gear, 3 armored vehicles. They weren't taking chances anymore. As Tarela climbed into the SUV, exhausted and terrified, Adrian's head of security handed him a tablet. Adrian's face went white as he read. What is it? Tarela asked. Adrian looked at her, and for the first time she saw fear in his eyes. Real, unfiltered fear. Emeka didn't just want to destroy my company. His voice was hollow. He wanted revenge because... Adrian stopped, his hands trembling. Because 15 years ago, before Coltech, before any of this, I was dating his sister. We were young, stupid. She got pregnant. Tarela's world tilted. I wasn't ready. I panicked. I left her. Adrian's voice cracked. She died during childbirth. Complications. And Emeka has blamed me ever since. Everything. The job, the loyalty, the smiles. It was all a lie. He was waiting for the perfect moment to take everything from me, the way I took everything from him. Tears streamed down Tarela's face, not from fear, but from the weight of it all, the tragedy, the guilt, the cycle of pain. Does he know about me? She whispered. Adrian nodded, his face etched with agony. That text wasn't just a warning. It was a message. He knows you matter to me, and he's going to use that. The SUV pulled into a fortified compound in Lekki. Armed guards, high walls, surveillance everywhere. Tarela stepped out into her new reality. A prisoner of safety, bound to a man whose past was devouring his present. That night, as she sat alone in a luxurious room that felt like a cage, Adrian knocked softly on her door. You should hate me, he said quietly. Tarela looked at him, this broken, complicated, impossible man. I should, but I don't. Why? Because pain doesn't make you a monster, Adrian. What you do with it does, and you're trying. She stepped closer. You're trying to protect me, to make things right. That counts for something. Adrian's eyes filled with tears he refused to let fall. I don't deserve you. Maybe not, but here we are. Outside, the Lagos night hummed with a million stories, and somewhere in that darkness, Emeka Okonkwo watched, waited, and planned his final move. But what neither Adrian nor Emeka knew was that Tarela had already made her choice. Not because of money, not because of fear, but because she'd seen the man beneath the rags, the truth beneath the lies, and the heart beneath the armor. And sometimes love isn't about deserving. Sometimes it's simply about choosing to stay. The most dangerous secrets aren't the ones we hide from others. They're the ones we hide from ourselves. Adrian ran from his guilt, from his past, from his pain, only to discover that peace doesn't come from hiding. It comes from being seen fully and completely by someone who chooses to stay anyway. Tarela's kindness wasn't just charity. It was courage. The courage to see someone's humanity when the world only sees their mistakes. Sometimes we're not called to fix broken people. We're called to stand beside them while they find the strength to fix themselves. And that kind of love, the kind that sees the monster and chooses the man, that's the kind that changes everything. Like subscribe, share, and comment the lesson you learn.